Who are Charites? Charites are in the ancient Greek mythological tradition goddesses of merriment and joy, the living embodiment of grace. In ancient times people honored not only the primary deities, but also their children. A special place in the pantheon was occupied by graces. According to beliefs, they were able to endow girls with beauty, charm and youth. They often helped women to solve problems or find true love. That is why Haritos were real favorites of mortals and were sung in numerous works of art. In all corners of Hellas their names were immortalized in history, they were presented with gifts and tried to placate in every possible way. The three Haritos were indeed the embodiment of the most beautiful things in the world. Some of the sources say that they were assistants of Aphrodite herself, the patroness of fertility and eternal spring. Haritos lived next to the Muses, which once again emphasizes their sphere of influence. The cult of beautiful goddesses was for several centuries widespread in Orchomenos, a small town located on the shore of Kephissos. Charites, Iota Tau Epsilon, in Greek mythology, goddesses of fun and joy, the living embodiment of elegance. Parents of the goddesses, Egla and Helios, according to Cerpheus' version Aphrodite and Dionysus. In ancient Greece, there were three Haritos, Aglaia, Eversina, and Talia. In astronomy, the asteroid 424, Grazia, which was discovered in 1896, is named after the goddesses. Antique authors managed to create a marvelous world, closely connected with religious, scientific, and cultural views. Ancient legends formed the basis of many modern works, as well as literary and other trends. The greatest creators of their time were Homer, Hesiod, Ovid, Hyginus, and Pseudo-Apollodorus. Thanks to their works, people learned about powerful gods, brave heroes, and unusual beings who control universal phenomena. According to the sources, the first generation of deities were Chaos, Nycta, Erebus, Gaia, Uranus. The first generation gave birth to all the Olympians and demigods, including the youngest of Haritos and her sisters. In Greek mythology, there is no consensus as to whose union gave birth to the beautiful goddesses of mirth and joy. The traditional version claims that the parents of the eternally young girls were the nymph Egla and the solar deity Helios. Interesting to know. Callimachus wrote that the mythological Charites were descended from Eilithyia, the patroness of childbirth. Cerpheus claimed that Charites descended from Dionysus, the god of viticulture, and Aphrodite. In some works, the girls are referred to as daughters of Oceanus and Eurynoma, or Dionysus and Chironida. In their works, ancient authors extolled the beauty and goodness of the goddesses, and also clearly indicated their functions and sphere of influence. Charites in Greek mythology. Three goddesses of mirth are known today. This is the number of Haritos that were designated both in literary sources and on paintings and bas-reliefs. The Hellenes associated them with grace, beauty, intelligence, youth, and merriment. In addition, Charites patronized various games and other pleasures of life. Traditionally, they were attributed to them. Aglaia, the radiant one-foot, Eversina, the one who pleases the heart, Talia, blossoming. Charity represented the embodiment of youth and charm, so they were honored not only by mortals, but also by other gods. Quite often, they were depicted dancing or quite carefree. They accompanied various celebrations, from the birth of a child to weddings, and thus gave people a wonderful mood for the whole day. Despite the fact that the ancient Greek goddesses Haritos did not belong to the supreme deities, they played a significant role in human lives. Interesting to know. Zeus was famous for his amorousness and had numerous relations with both goddesses and mortal women. That is why many of the researchers support Hesiod's version of the true origin of Haritos. According to the writings, the goddesses of Haritos were a real delight to deities and men. In their company, the souls found peace and harmony, casting off the perishable problems. Eternally youthful goddesses. The best friends of the Graces were the Muses, the patroness of all the arts and sciences. They were often seen with Aphrodite or Hermes. The girls had a fairly easy character, happily agreed to various adventures and at the same time did not tolerate boredom. The most vivid description of three sisters' beauties is found in Hesiod, who believed that they came from Zeus and Eurynomy, the influence of the goddesses of joy. The tutors of the goddesses of charm and beauty were Hera herself, the consort of Zeus. Despite her jealous and rather harsh character, she was incredibly kind to the girls. It is believed that it was thanks to her help that they became so feminine and charming. Among the inhabitants of Hellas there was a widespread myth that only Aphrodite was more beautiful than the three sisters. No one else can compete with grace. Legends tell us that there were three Haritos in ancient Greece. The distribution of duties among the sisters was very clear, so the girls never challenged each other's actions and were in full understanding. Their main features were lightness and grace. Up to our times have survived several descriptions of graces. As a rule, they were illustrated in the guise of young and very attractive girls with long, slightly curly hair. Haritos by nature had a perfect figure, which could be envied by any beauty. Their eyes enchanted and their voices clouded the mind. Beauty was the Haritos' main weapon. They were the ones who brought festivity and good mood to people's daily life. In fact, they embodied an atmosphere of celebration without which it would be impossible to imagine the existence of the world. Without Haritos, mankind would have fallen into eternal gloom and gloominess. At the same time, Haritos in ancient Greece not only embodied youth and the blossoming season, but also patronized all women. What patronized Haritos? The goddesses of grace were often mentioned by ancient authors as good patronesses. They never angered people and did not punish them for misdeeds. To achieve the blessing of grace wanted every person. Almost all the inhabitants of Hellas appealed to Haritos for youth or beauty. Some wished to receive from the goddess's charm, which would be able to defeat every man. The stronger half of mankind also made their pleas to the sisters. Heroes hoped to receive from Haritos fame, money and high position in society. Greeks sincerely believed that in those places where three beautiful goddesses were seen, there would be peace and festive atmosphere. As noted earlier, although Haritos were minor characters, they occupied a very significant place both on Olympus and in the mortal world. They often appeared at festivals, dancing and entertaining the public. Goddesses were very easygoing, kind and cheerful. This is interesting. Some of the sisters managed to build a family and know the happiness of motherhood. Thus, one of the goddesses became the spouse of Hephaestus, and the second, Hypnos. The main attributes of the girls were sprigs of myrtle. Incarnation in culture. Ancient Greek mythology had a huge influence on the cultural and religious development of the world. Many of the legends created in ancient times formed the basis of modern works. Particular attention to the figures of that time paid to simple human joys and feelings. So Haritos became a real favorite of the Hellenes. To their images turned poets and writers, philosophers, artists, sculptors, and even astrologers. The cult of graces was widespread for many centuries and was passed on to the modern generation. Literature. Haritos names are often found in literary works. It was here that the cult of beautiful patron goddesses of joy and fun originated. At the same time, in different epics, graces were endowed with different allegorical meanings, from whom may be learned the name of Haritos. Seneca, Orpheus, Pindar, Hesiod, others. The goddesses of beauty also became heroines of musical works. Graces were also reflected in academic music, mainly of the 19th century, including that of the French composer Charles Valentin Alcan. Painting. As a rule, Haritos were illustrated by artists all together and in a certain way, the two extreme ones facing the viewer, the one in the middle with her back. The girls had very expressive and attractive facial features. Their bodies were naked or slightly covered with a piece of cloth. Attributable to grace, external features were long hair, straight nose, Greek profile. Who painted Haritos? Botticelli, Raphael, Lucas Cranach the Elder, Rubens, etc. In addition, there are sculptures dedicated to the goddesses of joy and merriment. Tattoos. Tattoos are very popular among both men and women. In the portfolio of masters is a large number of sketches devoted to different subjects, including Haritos. Interpret such a drawing can be interpreted in different ways. Often they are chosen by lovers of history and mythology. In some cases, goddesses reflect the traits of a person's character, for example, lightness or the desire to live an idle life. Conclusion. Haritos are the ancient Greek goddesses of fun and joy. It is believed that they were responsible for the good mood at celebrations and were part of Aphrodite's retinue. The three patronesses were often asked for help by girls wishing to become a little more beautiful and men dreaming of gaining fame. Girls never refused people, were real favorites of both gods and mortals.